Okay, life gonna come at you fast. But you know what? You gotta stay ready.
Strong enough, never gave up every time I gave my all. Refuse to fall. Strong enough. Can't stop, won't stop, keep going, don't stop.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Real Estate Mastery with your girl, Jessica Myers. I am the Dealmaker. And you know what? You joined us in a space where we like to break down complex real estate strategies so that you can master them with ease. Today, I am so excited. I have one of my homegirls, grew up together literally from the rooter to the tutor, and now we both are in the world of real estate. And to see her come together was Terica Wright.
Hello, thank you, Jessica.
McClendon.
Terica McClendon Wright. You know, it's all good.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
This is incredible.
Yes. I am so excited to have you because you actually have an interesting route and a story. Can you just introduce a little bit of where you are now and really speak to the story, I guess, that helped you to get here?
So where I am now, I have dived completely headfirst into the world of speaking and moderating and success coaching, if you will. And that route has been really interesting. So real estate certainly was a vehicle for that. I started in real estate about 5 years ago as an independent agent, going through the ups and the downs and the struggles of being a success in the Atlanta market. And now I have a team. And from the team, coaching those agents, showing them the ropes as to how to be not only a successful agent, but a successful entrepreneur. And so now I find myself being invited, you know, to all these different places to talk about success and what it is to be an entrepreneur. And so that's my route.
It's so interesting because, yes, real estate is the vehicle that helps to get you there, but it's really about getting to the life of your dreams.
Yes.
Because that's ultimately what people want. People want the life of their dreams. Like, how can I get there?
Yeah.
Do I need to flip a house? Do I need to develop? Do I need to go sell a house?
Yeah.
What do I need to do? So that's where most people, when they think about real estate and the entry point, they think about, well, let me just go be an agent. I'm studying to get my license. What made you decide to go that route? Because there's so many different routes to get into succeeding in real estate. You could have been an appraiser, an inspector, you could have been in the flipping, but you decided to go get your license, which is where a lot of people start.
Yeah.
What was that decision like for you?
So the decision for me, honestly, I've always known since I was really young, and I think you know this too, that I was called to speak to people and to encourage them. I always responded really well to that. So when I decided to get into real estate, I thought, I can encourage people to buy the home of their dreams or to pursue ownership.
Exactly.
You know, and so being a salesperson actually came a little bit easy to me. Because
it's actually like therapy, if you will. Because I mean, you're talking about a lot of your clients are at the first time that they're going, or do you deal with a lot of first timers that are, as far as from an agent, do you deal with a lot of first timers, or what is your
niche?
Yeah, which niche do you gravitate
So
towards?
I've worked with so many. Now, as you know, I feel like I'm a vet in the game, right? I always tell people in real estate, you know, the years are like dog years. You know, every year is like 7. And so 5 years in the game, now I'm actually working with repeat buyers. I'm actually working with those, you know, high 6-figure clients, 7-figure purchasers as well. But as far as the process and working with each level of clientele, whether they're first time or $1 million clients, you're absolutely right. I find myself encouraging. I find myself coaching through the difficulty to stay the course. And I find myself a lot of the times having to go back and remind them when they first came to me, what did you want to accomplish? You know, when the challenge comes, what did you want to accomplish? And then I take them right back there, and that helps us to kind of smooth sail to the closing table.
So it's like you're a problem solver, counselor, therapist, your client. So it's like you get to be who you desire to be, but through the vehicle of real estate and make money at the same time.
Yes.
Now, is this something, as an agent, is this something that do you have to do full time? As far as licensing, because I think that's the biggest delineator that people need to understand as far as what licensing or schooling is required to do this as well.
So full time, right? There's so many agents, especially here in the Atlanta area. Don't quote me on this, but I believe they're close to almost 100,000 licensees.
100,000?
Almost.
In Atlanta only?
Well, in the state of Georgia.
In the state of Georgia.
In the state of
so
Georgia.
100,000 in the state of Georgia.
Almost.
So that means No telling how many there are nationwide.
Correct, right?
Okay.
But only less than 10%. I want to say it's about 7%. And these statistics are kind of old. I need to update my knowledge a little bit. But less than 10% a couple years ago were six-figure earners. Right? So with that being said, we find a lot of real estate agents that are part-time. They are doing it as a hobby. They are doing it as, you know, just a little bit of extra money on the side. But the true success with anything is when you're in it fully immersed. So I tell anybody, if you want some success in this thing, then you need to dive in. But then once you get into the nuts and bolts of the job, you'll find that someone purchasing a home, not a house, but someone purchasing a home, a place where they're going to raise their kids, a place where they're going to spend, you know, years of their lives. They're going to be in community. They're going to be the next politicians in that space. When you think about it on a level like that, that's not anything that you want to do hobby. That's something, you know, the reason why you're highly paid as an agent is because of how weighty and how heavy that job is. So I don't encourage anybody. If you want to be successful as an agent, if you want to be a doggone good agent, then you want to make sure that you're full-time in this space. It'll make a world of difference as to how you work with your client.
It feels like those principles can translate into a lot of other things too, which is how, like I said, it's almost like a ministry where you get to touch so many lives in so many different reasons. Because I'm a huge believer is something that shows up in your life in one place, I guarantee you is showing up somewhere else. So someone who may be nervous or scared or, you know, or any way that they may come to you about their home purchase, if you help them through that, it feels like it may be able to help them in other areas that they may have that same blockage.
Absolutely. The personalities really show themselves when purchasing a home. You think about it, is there any other purchase that could be larger? For across the board, a strong 80–85%, this is the largest purchase that a person will ever make. You think about it, people act crazy about $20, okay? About $20. Then you say, well, let's do a transaction that involves $800,000. People are ready to blow their
exactly. So it's like you see the best and the worst sometimes.
Those personalities really shine. You're talking about this amount of money that they probably will only spend once in their lives. So, you know, really that calling to speak and to encourage, that's really the bulk of my job, even as an agent. So the vehicle of real estate, right? It allows me to be who I am, the best of who I am.
Exactly, because on this space, we definitely like to talk about the product being real estate, the strategy being more so the agent of doing the sales side of real estate. Is it that I have a boss? Is it that I'm my own boss? Is it that somebody in 9 to 5, cool, they're great, and you know they'll be a great agent? How does that transfer?
The only thing that I'm a boss of is my time, right? But ultimately, my boss is my client. I'm a servant. And I want to say, you know, honestly, in any space, if you are about who it is that you're serving, you understand that they are truly your boss. So I don't really dive into the I'm my own boss. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Before the camera started rolling, I'm texting my client, you know, one of them, letting them know that things are okay. You know, so, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay. Without them, whether they boss me around or not, I wouldn't be in this space. So I'm grateful.
So how do you manage, like, you know, I know a lot of people are talking about, oh, it's about to be a recession, oh, it's about to be a crash. And, you know, even from the 2008 and a lot of things that happened there, people had to get out of real estate. How do you survive during those times of economic cycles?
So survival, right? But let me go to this. This is very strange. I don't know if God gave me this lesson or if I actually learned it in real estate school, because I talk to other real estate professionals, nobody seems to know this. The cycle of real estate is 30 years, the full cycle. So when we talk about economic crisis and, you know, if it's going to be a downturn in the market, I lead with knowledge, right? So real estate is an upside down triangle. That's why your mortgage is 30 years, right? So where we were in 2008 at the recession, and it actually was a recession, that was the bottom. So we've been naturally on the upward climb for the last almost, 10 years or so. That's naturally what was supposed to happen when you come from a pit. So what we're seeing now is not a recession. We're finally seeing the market do this, the top of the triangle, balancing. Yeah, so finally what we see is a balance. Now sellers are having to negotiate and be more even with the buyer. So that's why we're seeing interest rates finally kind of go back to normal, because interest rates at 1% and 2%, that's not normal. But in order to get out of the pit, they had to do this so that way we can see an increase where we're supposed to be. So now we are where the market is finally leveling, and we'll stay there for a while. So it'll be a while before we go to a actual.
So it's kind of like a seesaw. So it's like when it was down,
Yeah.
that's when the interest rates came down
Yeah.
to get more people buying. But then when they start back buying and it started shooting
we
up,
finally-
so interest rates finally were able to come up and level out and balance. So
now we're headed to a balanced, even market. And so it'll be a minute before we see another recession.
So is it that people should buy now? Should they wait? Because a lot of people ask me, they're like, should I get real estate now? And I'm like, that's like getting to a stop sign saying, should I go left or right? Well, where
Right.
are you? Where are
Yeah.
you going? What
Yeah.
are you expecting?
The answer is always yes to that. It's almost like, should I be an owner now? You know? And the answer to yes, God has created, just back to biblical principle, God has created us to be the lender and not a borrower.
Yeah.
So is there the best time to be the lender and not the borrower? The answer is always yes. I want to be on the side of lending, right? So with that being said, you want to be the owner, because if you ever run into anything, then you have a product to sell. You know, even as real estate agents, they tell us all the time, the creme de la creme of being an agent is being on the list side. You have the product to sell.
Okay.
So, you know, people asking that question, I just look at them and be like, what you think? You asking it because you know you need to be an
But wait,
owner.
just to make sure that we don't miss that part. So you mentioned I want to list it or sell it. Can you explain what those concepts are and how your role kind of acts in a housing transaction?
So as the listing agent, when you have the product to provide, typically you're on the up and up. And that's just it. You're not the one having to scramble around and find the deal when you have the deal. As an agent, you hold the cards when you are on the list side.
So you succeed when you find someone that's interested in selling their home, and you negotiate with them like, hey, allow me to, market your property and put it up on the multiple listing service as a licensed agent. And then now you connect with other licensed agent who represent the buyer.
Yes.
And you're like, hey, go bring your buyer to come to the product. So really, as a listing agent, you're marketing to the buyers.
Absolutely.
Is it any part of that you're scared, like, how do I get buyers? Especially you talk about $800,000, $1 million homes. How do you get to those type clientele?
Nothing is off limits. Nothing. You can ask me anything.
Who is Rufus? Who is that voice? Who is in the body of Rufus?
Are you kidding me? Or do I have to give that up? Rufus is me and Cardi. Cardi sometimes me. But we are the voice of Rufus. And he's coming back. He's coming back with a vengeance. He's coming back.
Stay tuned.
Don't go nowhere.
You budget. You pay bills.
Yet somehow women like you, like me,
Are 80% more likely than men to live in poverty in retirement.
So here's what we're going to do now. We're going to save ourselves by setting a goal to save 2% more of our income for our retirement.
Why two?
1% honors you.
And 1% honors all womankind.
So come on.
Learn more about the 2% challenge at WeSaySaveIt.org.
My Shiro doesn't always wear a cape, but she always has time for a hug, a smile, for going the extra mile. My Shiro stretches every dollar, puts in long hours, puts others first. But now it's your time, Mom. When you're ready to retire, we want you to be able to enjoy it. It's time to start saving now. A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today. Visit aceyourretirement.org/Shiro.
Now you talk about the wonderful world of real estate.
Yes.
But we actually got our start growing up, just two church girls being in church all the time, running our mouths. And now it's so funny because they actually used to call me radio back in the day. They called me radio back at church, and it was so funny. But it's like now to have a platform in real estate, all I want to do is tell everybody like how successful it is. But one of the things of why I got into real estate, I just wanted my time. And I was like, you know what? Like I said, as far as the entry point of being an agent, I was like, you know what? Well, let me go study for my test. And then, you know, studying for your test, you see it's a lot of rules, and you're like, wait, am I a rule follower or no? Like, what do I want to do? So what was that precipice like knowing what we grew up in, knowing our background, and kind of deciding to take this path?
Well, first of all, I want to talk about how, remember I was sitting at your kitchen table, and we were talking about, you were pursuing your real estate license first.
Yeah.
And kind of encouraged me. I'd already heard it a few times, but you encouraged, like, you should go and get yours too. And then now look at how the roles have reversed. Like, you didn't finish yours, but with good reason, because now you're in investing. I finished mine, which I can't believe, because I'm not a rule follower either. Very much so rule breaker. But growing up, that's funny that they call you radio. I didn't know that. As close as we were. They
Miss
called
Marilyn.
Miss Marilyn called you that? Marilyn James.
And she used to make my belly button the dial. Like, she'd be like, turn it down. Okay, turn it up.
Oh my God, really? That's so silly.
Yes.
But my family called me Connie Flint. Do you remember her?
She was a reporter?
She was on like the gospel radio station. They were like,
wow.
you're going to be Connie Flint when you grow up.
Wow.
And so now look at us, radio and Connie Flint.
Exactly. Definitely.
But anyway, so yeah, just that upbringing. And I think we're both like, you know, people that inspire others.
Yeah, because I always feel, because even you bring it back the kitchen table conversation, I mean, you being one of my closest friends, like, we often talk to each other, so it just speaks to the people that you have that, you know, I found out about something, like you said, I was studying for my license. I was like, girl, if you don't get over here, you know, I'm big on enrollment. Like, whatever the vision is, whatever the dream, I try to get like, even right now, I'm fasting, and I'm like, anybody around me, you want to eat fruits and vegetables? Like, let's go, because I'm on this 90-day journey, let's go.
Yeah,
because
definitely
to me,
an evangelist for everything you do. Me too, though. I start a fruits and vegetable fast soon too. So
So it's like everything you do, the more people you enroll in what you do, the further along you can get. Because you're talking about this conversation, and this conversation was probably in 2014, 2015, and now here we are in 2022. Where are you? Like you said, you have a staff. You are close to getting broker license? No, yes, no, yes.
Very close, very close.
Okay, so we're talking about staff. You're getting further education in your field to grow even further and where you're able to produce. I mean, did you imagine this possible when you sat back, when we were at the kitchen table, just chatting about how you can get in and own your time too?
To be honest with you, and this may sound a little bit cocky, but anytime I decide to do anything, I'm always dreaming of what the top looks like. I never want to stay, you know, it's real crowded in the middle and around the bottom. So I'm always looking like, what is the route to the top? And not saying that you have to be a broker or own a brokerage in order to be successful, but for me, and in my book, you know, if I'm gonna do it, I want to own it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So to be honest with you, back in 2016, 17, when I decided to do this, thinking of what a brokerage would look like, those were my thoughts.
Now, what obstacles did you face? Because I know it was
plenty.
Because you just said 2016, 2017. Is that how long it took to get the license, or what was your path there?
Yeah, I got my license at 30, and I think that may have been around 2016 or so. The obstacles, can we talk about it? Depression, there have been some breakups, some heartbreak, some family dysfunction. There have been some mental breakdowns. I mean, these last 5 years, the pathway up has not been an easy one. But would I take any of it back? Absolutely not. I think I needed all of those challenges to mold me into what you see right now today.
So how do you, because you say how you nudge other people to go forward, but you just list a lot of heavy elements that take, I mean, 2 of those alone. Yeah. Like you said, heartbreak, depression.
Yeah.
I mean, just that alone can take somebody out. Loss.
Yes.
Grief.
Yes.
How do you keep going, let alone encouraging other people to keep going? Because you out there, powerhouse motivation. No matter what it is you do, your vehicle of choice is real estate.
Yeah.
But how does entrepreneurship and your fervor keep going in the midst of all of those things?
literally, I only have one answer, God. I had to really identify my anchor in all of that. What was the thing that was going to keep me going through my mother passing? What was the thing that was going to keep me going during times of uncertainty? Because that's really where the depression come from, when you don't know what's coming next. And when you're sort of type A like me, you know, you kind of want to control.
You got everything planned, and I know the next step. And then, because this isn't like where you're getting a check every other week.
Woo! Yeah. You want to control the narrative. You want to control when the paycheck is coming. You want to control when you close. You want to control the kind of clients that you get. And the reality is, the greatest walk of faith has been being a realtor. The greatest walk of faith of my life has been this particular profession, but with good reason though. And so I think the thing that has kept me motivated and going is knowing who I am and whose I am. My mother passed away in 2020, and she said that to me more times than I could count. And I mean, I used to, when she was alive, I'm like, Mama, just be quiet. Like, we don't want to hear that anymore. You know, that was her.
Hey, Mama.
Right? That was her answer for everything. Know who you are and whose you are. She'd say it like a broken record. And when she passed away, and some of the things that I experienced by way of her passing, that was the only thing that kept me through, was identifying who I was, really being clear that regardless of what's happening to me, who are you? Like, what's your identity?
Yeah.
You know? And so I would say before she passed away, my identity was in, you know, my marriage. My identity was in how much money I was making, the car I was driving. And when none of those things matter anymore, then it's like, okay, now who are you? Yeah, now whose do you belong to? And that's what did it for me. Like, and that's the reason why in the face of adversity, I'm still able to stand, because I know whose I am.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah, nobody
That's so
can take that
beautiful.
away from me.
Yeah, and so what are some of the practices that you can encourage other people to get deeper in that connection? Because I know, you know, it's not back in the day where we used to have the Bible reading schedule that we used to have to turn in every week to showcase, you know, what we were doing. But what practices as an adult do you do to help ground yourself in that?
Yeah, so I think the first thing for me, your friendships and your associations are really, really important. You got to get around people who encourage you to dig in. Like when you want to wallow and when you want to be depressed, they remind you to go back to your center, you know. Even some of my friends have served as like educators, you know, almost like, hey, go and read this book, read this scripture, you know, to kind of help ground yourself. It's like the more you know, right? So that's been huge for me. And then, because I don't want to give the blanket answer of like, oh, just go and pray about it.
Yeah.
You know, I think that answer is just so vague. And if anything, it may turn people off. So more specifically, get with friends that will encourage you, you know, that will hear you out, that will give you resources, that will tell you what to go and read, that will even advise you what to go and pray. Like, what am I praying for? And then after you pray, God, what am I even looking for? Like, what do I want to hear you say? Yeah. So I would say most importantly, those associations are huge.
And like you said, as far as like what do you want to hear? What do you say? And one of the things too is that Miss Katisha, your mom.
Yeah.
One of the things I loved about her growing up, she was always the best dressed, no matter what day, no matter what. I know she had y'all looking good. She was looking good. And you even now in what you do, you look amazing.
Thank you.
And you even started a brand.
Yeah.
What you want to speak about how you fused we talked earlier about how you got a hobby over here and you got this over here, but how you were able to fuse that brand in what you're able to do even within real estate.
Oh goodness. Okay, so the clothing store, the Look by Terica Wright, that literally is fueled by passion because I love to dress up. We talk about me putting on high heels, and my mother, she scarred me. I mean, man, like I'm 35, still trying to break out of the idea that every time I go somewhere, I got to get a new outfit.
Like, I mean, we can't reuse no clothes over here.
Today, before I came here, I'm like, I got to go buy Zara. You know, I love Zara. I'm like, I got to go buy Zara and find something to wear. And then someone's like, no, you don't. Like, go to your closet. So anyways, thank you, Mom, for the curse, right? But I would say looking good, to me, it's just like a general principle. Like, when you look good, you feel good. I remember on one of my most depressed days, as a matter of fact, it was my birthday last year. I was like out of it, right? But there was something about dressing up when I put on my clothes to go in, because I didn't want to go and celebrate my birthday with my friends and family. But when I dressed up and I put on my clothes, it was something that lifted off of me. And it was by way of when I looked in the mirror, what I saw. So sometimes I think to activate certain things in you, when you look in the mirror, what do you see? When you can't see beyond your circumstance, sometimes clothes can represent where you're going. You know, like dress for the season that you're walking into. You may not have the $1 million right now, but go and dress up and feel like $1 million or look like $1 million and see, don't it, you know, it change the feeling or the mood. And that's where it starts, in the feeling.
That's interesting that you said that, because so many times, you know, you go somewhere and you meet somebody, the first thing they say is what? Where are you from? And you're now saying we should look at it from a different perspective of where you're going.
Where am I going?
And not where you're from, because it doesn't matter about that.
Come on.
It's about where you're going and how you dress and you look the part for where you're going.
Yes, yes.
So what were the 3 pivotal things that you can think of that like helps you when you are down? Because it's so interesting, I feel we're having these conversations about real estate mastery. But there's so many other conversations, like the real estate is the real estate, study, get your license, become a real estate agent. You can make 6-7 figures in some cases, right? But it's the who you are that pushes you to make the 6 and 7 figures. Because it's not that you get your license and you're a 6 and 7 figure earner. So that's why I want to ask, like, what are those 3 traits, those 3 power elements that help push you along into becoming a top in the industry?
The 3 elements, that's a good question. Let me think about it.
Well, you talked about one, I feel, was focus.
Yeah.
And then, you know.
I think really being clear about your goal.
Intentional.
Yes, because once you're clear about your goal, then you can set proper intention, and then you can execute accordingly. So I would say clarity, intention, and execution.
Okay.
The power or the magic is in the execution.
That means ready, set, go.
How do you decide what is a priority at the moment versus something that you can complete at a later date?
What feels right in the moment? Because sometimes it's like, okay, this is really high on my priority list, but I really just don't feel like it. But I think that in order to be productive is like, do what's best for what you feel like in the moment. So if this easier task is easier for you, do that and then tackle the harder task.
To Sofia and Gabriel. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
Yo, camping buddy. Okay, you guys ready?
Dude, I thought you were driving.
I thought you were driving.
Oh, I never said I was driving.
I definitely can't drive.
If you're high, just don't drive. It's illegal everywhere. If you feel different, you drive different.
So the 3 elements that you feel as far as like carried you through work, you said clarity?
Clarity, intention, and execution.
and heavy on the execution.
Heavy on the execution.
Yes, because people can get caught up in analysis paralysis. And like you mentioned, as far as clarity of vision, like if I declare that I am going to Staten Island in New York, if you ask me to go south, what my answer is going to be very clear and intentional of no.
Yes.
And so many people, they get somewhere and they're like, oh, I would just like to be financially free.
Right.
Oh, I just want my time. And so they're not intentional, they're not specific.
Because they're not extremely clear.
Yeah.
Right? The vision. What is that vision?
Yeah.
You know, what does it look like?
Yeah. And there's a beauty to writing, because we even did a writing challenge at one point, you know, just kind of remember we did like 21 days of gratitude.
Yes.
And we were like, what was your list like? Because that really helped me journal prompts. And that goes back to your circle, strengthening and empowering you. Because, you know, it's kind of been that tag over the years where I would find something and be like, girl, you gotta do it. You will find something to be like, girl, let's do it. Because you came to me with a 21-day journal.
Really?
And like, let's do the gratitude journal.
I think I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because
yes.
that was something one of my mentors said. I was like, how do you get out of a rut? Because when people are happy and you in a rut, you looking like, well, of course you would say that.
Right.
Everything's good for you.
Right.
And so I was like, how do you get out of the rut? Because I feel like sometimes you can get kind of caught in life. Because as you mentioned, those elements that you mentioned earlier, depression, the loss and grief and you know, heartbreak and all of those things, that can take people out. How do you get back from that? And she says, start with gratitude.
Ooh, that's
so
good.
even when you and I had that gratitude moment, it was a hard time for me. But to find and stretch and find something to be grateful for and be intentional about that every day was one of the only things that could help get me out of that.
Yep.
And
I
so
love that.
I am just like completely grateful. Any last words that you want to say or anything we didn't cover that you want to get out there and encourage others who are looking to get started in real estate, looking to become an agent, and wanting to make that difference and impact those around them?
So if you want to get in real estate, I would say start with knowing your why. Why do you want to get in real estate? And if it's all about, you know, the money, then I'm telling you now that you won't last. I'm telling you now that you won't last. Your why has to be bigger than the money. I would say center your why around service, because I think that your service to the people will make way for abundance. So you don't have to worry about the money per se. Let that be secondary. Another thing too is don't be so quick to, you know, jump online and, you know, one of the things that us more seasoned real estate professionals, we kind of don't really appreciate when folks like, I want to be a real estate agent or I want to be, you know, investor. Like, where do I start or what school do I need to go to? That's a red flag in my opinion. Because if you are not forward thinking enough, because you use Google for everything else, if you're not forward thinking enough to even find a school and sign up for class, you got to ask what the first step should be, then I'm looking at you sideways for the kind of agent that you might be or for the kind of realtor that you might be. Because a lot of times in transactions with clients, you don't necessarily know what the first step is, but someone that's forward thinking, someone that is anticipating what the resolution is, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna take that step. I'm not gonna stand still and be like, well, I wanna do it, but I don't know what school to go to.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. You gotta be hungry.
Yeah, you gotta be hungry. Come on, Les Brown.
Hungry and resourceful. And it's funny you say Les Brown, because that's actually how I got started in real estate.
Yeah.
Through a Les Brown conference.
Really?
You have to be resourceful. And it's crazy because after that, it was, you know, they sell you to a class, and I went into one of those classes and ultimately came up on a $20,000 price tag.
Right.
And I was like, I'm getting into real estate to get money.
Yeah.
How, you know, and then I went down the route of trying to, well, let me become an agent, because it ain't $20,000 to become an agent versus $20,000 to learn how to be, at that point, a wholesaler. It was just like, but you know what? They showed us some routes to go and get funding and business credit and things like that.
Yep.
And thankfully, I was able to go and get the money.
Yeah.
And mind you, before then, I think the most money I'd ever gotten at one time was to pay for a semester at Georgia State for $2,000.
Yeah.
So coming up with $20,000 was what I felt at the time impossible.
Yeah.
But the fact that I was able to do it in one afternoon, when I tell you that's the same prowess in me that went and got the millions of dollars that it took to close hotels, the millions of dollars that it takes to transact the developments and the real estate that we do now, that same prowess in me to go get $20,000 and I had never seen it before.
Yep.
And so that's what people miss out on when they don't push themselves past a barrier of entry, of when them wanting to get in.
Yes.
And they're like, they wanted to lower the barrier, and you're like, the barrier's here.
Yeah.
Because it's not just for the barrier, it's saying that if you're not tall enough to ride the ride and accomplish this, then you might want to rethink how tough and resilient you're going to be for the other obstacles.
Absolutely. I never forget, my first conversation was with Angel Creighton.
I saw her a couple weeks ago.
Yes, Angel Creighton. She said, so entryway, in order to do this, you're going to need about $2,000 startup. I didn't even have 20 cents, I don't think, at the time. Maybe I may have had $2, right? But she said there is going to be $2,000 in order for you to get started in this thing, because you're going to need some marketing, you're going to need signs, you're going to start rambling off all these things. It didn't shake me because I was very clear about what I wanted to do. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll cross that bridge when I get there. But if I had heard that with the mindset of, oh, well, I don't have 2,000, then I wouldn't be on this stage here with you today.
Yeah.
So starting with what's in your hands.
Yeah.
And what was in my hands was the fact that I could go and I could study and I can get my license, and that was a start.
Yeah.
And that's all I needed. I tell people all the time, the reason why people jump on bandwagons is because bandwagons are moving. You're waiting for someone to jump on and support you, but nobody supports anything that's stagnant. So I need you to start turning your wheels.
Yeah.
And when you turn your wheels, then you'll find the support. You'll find the resources as you move, bandwagon.
Yeah, it's kind of like as you're eating an apple and you get to the seed and you want more fruit, but you got to put the seed in the ground to germinate and to grow and give it time and nurture so that now it can produce more fruit.
Yeah.
Versus just, I want another apple from the seed.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you have to understand that's where your vision starts. It's about putting it in fertile ground, putting it in an environment that will source to it everything it needs to grow and spring forth more fruit.
Yes.
This has been an amazing conversation. How can people find you and keep in touch?
You can find me on Instagram primarily at Terica Talks. That is my new Instagram page, and that's where I function from personally. Also, you can find me via email at terica@tericawright.com, and the new website is coming soon.
Yeah. Hey, well, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Real Estate Mastery with your girl, Jessica Myers. I am the deal maker. You know what? It's been an amazing time catching up, learning new things, and growing. It's about continuing to stay connected and tune into more episodes so that you can learn strategies that can help you in your start to real estate. As always, you know you got it. Let's get it. Let's go.
go.
Still standing tall.